Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Aspiring Speakers Lightning Talk session. For those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. I'm Abby. I work with the Aspiring Speakers and a number of other communities, all of which are free and run by RecWorks. RecWorks are a tech recruitment company with a huge difference. So obviously, as a company, we're always on the lookout for more clients, and some of our best clients have come from community members like yourselves who have recommended RecWorks to their internal talent team. So if you're hiring for a new team or you're working for a company that is, we would love to have a chat with you. If you want to know more about what we can offer, just send us a message on LinkedIn, X, or Slack. If you look for us on LinkedIn or X as RecWorks, you'll find us. And we would love to take that conversation forward with you. So what's the difference? Well, also as a company, we really do believe that recruitment can be a force for good in the industry beyond just placing people in jobs. We have a particular focus on learning, mentoring, and personal development. If people want to learn and others want to teach or share their knowledge, we are more than happy to connect you through our communities and events like the one today. We see this as giving back to those we've worked with in the past, but also paying it forward to those we hope to work with in the future. We have made over 5,000 introductions now through our Meet a Mentor program. Kind of does what it says on the tin, really. And we're really excited about seeing where that goes next. As I've already said, we love to give opportunities for people to connect, and this event is part of that. And again, if you would like to know more about any of our communities, get in touch with me. My name is on your screen as it appears, Abby Leverton. Look for me, you'll find me, and I'll be able to tell you more about our communities. So with no further ado, we have three awesome speakers for you today, two Christmas themes and one slightly less Christmas themed. So we're going to start with slightly less and go more and more Christmas themed for you. Hopefully that's the plan, with this being the last one of the year. So with no further ado, over to you, Rajani. You're still muted, Rajani.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen? Great.
Yep.
Right. Ending a note on a very heavy topic, vacuum tubes to quantum bits. Don't be afraid. It's a very casual talk about my journey in tech, and somewhat gives away my age here. So I'm going to talk about the evolution of technology that I have witnessed, right from vacuum tubes. Yes, I was there when the vacuum tubes were still being used, and how I see the emerging field of AI and quantum computing leading the way. So who am I? Just to give you the various tech I work in, so then you can see how I've ended up here from where I started. I'm a technologist at Aviva, and I design highly scalable web and IT solutions in the cloud. And prior to that, I worked in embedded systems, cellular networks, satellite systems, TVs, DVD set-top boxes, and so on and so forth. I'm also a CTO at Winvest, a fractional CTO, and I'm committed to building an inclusive financial ecosystem for women. And my AI comes from I'm a technical advisor at Pixwade, and hence I get to work on cool AI and machine learning, and we are trying to implement smart motorways in India. I'm also the director of Women in Code, and I'm an advocate for women in tech. Education. Why is this important? Because you need to understand my background to actually appreciate some of the bits I'm going to share. So my schooling, how did I end up in computing? So I was born in Berlin, Germany, and my parents thought it was a good idea for me to school in India and soak up the culture. So when I arrived in India, in Bangalore, which is like the Silicon Valley of India, there was no way that I could compete on the language. They had local languages. So the school decided to offer me computing, which I was more than glad to take, because then, I have the advantage of competing with my peers. And in my school, I learned BASIC. I don't know if I will introduce BASIC, DOS. It used to be, it's a thing of the past, but it was the first sort of structured programming language. So it is beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. And one of the projects that I worked as part of my school was digitization of a gas and energy company and automating their processes. From the school came university, and when in the university, I learned languages like COBOL and Fortran, and I do remember how like the recursive loop would be GoTo. I don't know if anybody has used GoTo in the past, but that's how we used to implement the languages, and yeah, to even think that we used to use GoTo, sounds, now that we use high level languages, is a bit yeah, far-fetched. So in the university, I did a banking system simulation. There was a Y2K problem, as we call it, where all the banks had only allocated 2 digits to the year, which means after 99, it would go to like 00, which means chaos in banking systems. So I was part of solving that problem. And in master's, whilst I was working in Philips, embedded systems and satellite systems, I was doing the ionospheric modeling of GPS signals. Now, transition from vacuum tubes. So I started off in school, the CRT, which uses vacuum technology, computers, like bulky monitors, and the RAM would be so low. It would be, we are talking, even if you had like 256 KB of memory, you are like, oh my God, you've got a high-end computer there. And the physical storage was floppy disk. So when you did projects, you'd be like, oh my God, let it work. And you would have the backups of your project and any work, because the floppy disk would fail, very often. And then I've seen through the CD-ROMs come through, and the DVDs and USB sticks. And USB sticks also, there was like, oh, you can store this much memory on USB sticks. And yeah, and then now it's a thing of the past. When I got my wedding photos on USB sticks, I was like who uses USB sticks anymore? And from SSDs to NVMe in cloud computing, I have seen the media transform, and now we are in data anywhere, where what I put on my phone, I can see it on the Google Hub, which is like showing all the pictures of my family memories, which is nice and is always running. It's amazing where we've come from, like the floppy disk era. So my first job was at Philips, and when I joined Philips, we were transitioning from CRT to LCD screens, flat TVs, as we call it, and we're building set-top boxes. I don't know if people have heard about set-top boxes, but it used to be like a little gadget that what your Netflix would do. You would have an antenna and a card, and you could view programs. It's almost like your Sky TV, but using a set-top box, and DVD players. And we used to get computers with the slots for CD-ROMs and DVD players, which we don't see anymore. If you look at your laptop now, it's so thin. It's so it's so different. And I think the most important thing I want to talk about, the evolution of tech and adapting to the future, is the biggest one, which is the mobile and internet revolution. So starting from not having accessible mobiles to really having these brick handsets, yes, like really brick-like, to the Nokia phones where there was no touch typing, you had to enter, and it was primarily like built for calls. And then data was introduced using, like 2G, and 3G was still also not around. And then from there to like having smartphones is unbelievable to to be even here. So how has this influenced some of the tech? So portable computing, we're talking about laptops and tablets, which was not there. I've seen the e-commerce boom, where there things like Amazon selling books online and shoes online, which is is really cool. That when it started, it was like the thing. And now it's pretty normal. Also, enhanced connectivity. One of the projects I've worked on in the past is looking at 2G, 3G, 4G, and using the technology to provide a position. And I have seen how we've transitioned to like 5G, where there's so much connectivity. Now, I even connect to my work if my internet is down using my phone network, and it's good. It's pretty good. And also how information accessibility was missing. You had expert peoples, and you would have to go to these expert people to learn about anything, and you have to go and seek out, like, what do I do? There's no concept of mentors. There's nothing. You would just like, no, you, based on your network, you'd go reach out to them and have that. And now, like, information is available at your fingertip. And for those who come from that era, I really think that this is like the biggest boon I have, to have the knowledge and to be able to connect to people, like using LinkedIn. It's like game changing, such a game changing revolution for me. And then the app ecosystem. So when we were in little phones, we used to play the games on the phone, and it used to be really hard, but we used to play. But now there's, you see that is like moved, transformed into like the app industry. Like everything is an app. You want to journal, there's an app. You know, the growth tracker for your children is an app. Everything is absolutely an app on your phone and your your desktop as well. And social media growth. There was nothing called social media back then, right? It was your society and your communities, real people. But now you see how like the social medias have popped up, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and just paved the way for social media. And it's also like you're looking at using social media for marketing as well, which is like super, super cool. So that was like the journey I've seen, and what I'm looking forward to, the technological advancement. So I'm already part of some of the AI that comes and is really cool, but I do believe that AI is going to get better and better with the artificial general intelligence, AGI, coming, which will make it near human level intelligence. I'm looking forward to that, and how it's going to impact the industries. There's a wave and it's going to come, and it'll become a thing in the past, because there'll be something else. And also, if I wasn't a software engineer, I would have been a doctor, because I love biotech and I love medicine. So I'm looking forward to like the genome and the gene editors, CRISPR, and all that coming in, and ethically sort of solving all the problems we have, and early treatment and diagnosis of patients, which is going to be in the health industry, which is going to be great. And quantum computing. No, I haven't. I don't work in quantum computing, but I know that if it's going to be a thing, that we will all have to touch it. Just seeing how I started off with basics and where I am here, we will all, you know, one day be using quantum tech, even though it is still in infancy right now. I believe it's going to revolutionize material science, like nanotechnology, so on and so forth. So it's going to be, again, very, very disruptive. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Great talk, Rajani.
Yeah.
I think the only question that I have is for folks that are curious about like the innovations, say, on quantum computing and everything else that is coming. Like, how can they start getting acquainted with this brave new world?
I think it's the same. I think it will be the same answer for AI. Just get involved. I didn't think when I started computing that I'll be doing cloud computing. I was in embedded systems. You get opportunities, and it's keeping up with tech. And you like it or not, you will end up keeping up with tech, as long as you find opportunities and keep learning and growing in the tech landscape.
Excellent. I know we've got a question from the audience. So Roger, do you want to go ahead and ask?
Yes, thank you. You talked about leaving school and going to university. I don't think you could have imagined at that time what the computing world is going to be like in 2022. What did you expect that the computing world would be like? What did you expect your career to be?
I thought I would be still using, I knew that the languages will get a bit more evolved, like high-level programming languages, because I could see right from assembly language level programming, which I've done, like how it's progressing. But I didn't think that internet is going to come and disrupt everything, and the technology is going to go at such a fast pace. And yeah, so I thought I would be just writing programs for banking industries, automating and digitizing and solving like the little problems. I didn't think it's going to be this huge. But then I was only a student, so yeah.
So your career has gone in a different direction. Are you pleased or not?
I am super pleased. I'm super pleased where I am. Yeah, I'm enjoying tech. I'm passionate about it, and I'm so thrilled I'm here.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions for Rajani? I'm going to take that as a no. So next up we have Anthony. I can see your very festive jumper. I'm wearing festive earrings, but my headphones hide them. That's a shame. But hey, so Anthony, over to you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. You can actually blame Carly for this jumper and actually for my Christmas presentation. I bought it like 2 days ago to say, okay, this is properly Christmas themed now, all right? All right, can everybody see my screen? So my name is Anthony. If you're here, you probably don't need an introduction already. So I'll skip it and have like a properly Christmas relaxed session. But this is actually a continuation about a session that I gave like, I don't know, 5 months or 4 months ago. So I'm just giving a proper context of what I was talking about. So back in August, you would meet a very annoyed Anthony trying to get ChatGPT to generate a PowerPoint presentation for me. Basically, generate an outline and then export the presentation using VBA, which was my workaround to make it run. And ChatGPT was being very, very, very annoying. First, like the content that it produced wasn't that good. Second, my own technique of exporting the presentation as VBA was not that great. I think that the most annoying thing is that I would tell ChatGPT to do something, for instance, don't add animations or use this color, and it would forget because like ChatGPT struggled to retain context, right? And finally, when I finally exported the code would be broken. I would have to basically fix VBA code, which anyone that worked with VBA before knows that it's not a funny thing to be doing at all. And ChatGPT would make like function names and method names would hallucinate all over the place. Plus, it was slow. It was often like broken, and like I felt like the Grinch. Anyway, the best thing that I could get out of ChatGPT was the presentation kind of looking like this. And it took me like, I don't know, 10 times as much as if I just did it by hand, right? But honestly, let's review this with like 5 months of extra experience. Was it really a ChatGPT problem or was it a me problem, right? So the first thing is I was trying to learn to use a new tool. ChatGPT was new to me. The first thing that you learn about new tools is like they can't do everything, right? It's just that old saying about like when all that you know is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Maybe like ChatGPT was not the proper tool for the job. There are plenty of other tools that can do this very well. So I'm using Simplified here, and it generated a lot of the design for my presentation. Rajani also used Gamma, if I'm not mistaken. So we are all like using AI tools today to help build our presentations, right? More than that, ChatGPT itself has been evolving. It feels much faster. It is looks like it's retaining much more information. So I paid for the pro version. That may help as well. But even ChatGPT 3.5 looks much, much better in my opinion. And the truth about this is AI is here to stay, right? I will show you many, many ways in which I think that the AI is enhancing my productivity and actually inspiring me to be more creative, because I now can just prompt on a chat and get an image or help like figure out something that I don't know much about. And even if I were to dislike the new reality, there are smarter people than me that are basically saying that, yeah, adapt or die kind of scenario is coming. You need to find ways to incorporate Gen AI in your workflow. So let's talk a little bit of how I'm following Kent Beck's advice over here and recalibrating for an AI, for a world of AI tools. So the first genius thing about AI tools is, as a non-native speaker, I can't like praise ChatGPT enough for like how confident it makes me feel. I'm basically asking ChatGPT to proofread everything that I write, be it social media, some things at work. This presentation, here it goes. I had it basically proofread my entire outline, and it made it much better and more concise. More than that, I kind of spoiled this already, but I'm using AI tools for content generation. So all of the images that you're seeing in this presentation were just prompts that I passed through ChatGPT and Bing AI, and it did an amazing job of what I wanted to do. As a software developer, I'm seeing that I'm reaching out less and less to Stack Overflow and more to ChatGPT. So just to give a very brief demo here, this is like Fibonacci using a closed formula, but actually, can you see my screen? Do I need to increase the... Okay, I also do something, toggle dark mode here. My eyes, but yeah, I think that you guys can see it better. So I can come here and let's say that I don't understand what this code is talking about. I can just ask him, can you explain this code? And yeah, it's telling me what the code does. And for a simple Fibonacci function, it may not look impressive, right? But when you have like a giant enterprise code base going all over the place, this is one of my favorite features, right? Or even things that I'm too lazy to do. For instance, sometimes I'm just too lazy to write a documentation, right? So I can come here and basically ask Copilot to write documentation for the Fibonacci function. And it will analyze the context, and here it is formulating a doc string, which I can just copy and paste it here. Actually, there are smart ways to invoke this that it basically generates a diff for you anyway. But here it goes. It's probably writing better documentation that I would do it in a rush for sure. And I can do much more. I can ask it to generate tests for me. And then once I have the test generated, I can ask it to people that knows like a little bit about how Fibonacci function works knows that this is a bad idea because it's like the close formula is not very efficient. So I can ask it to optimize my code and give other implementations and test it with the test cases that it just wrote, right? Or even as a day-to-day thing, sometimes I'm not a Python developer, for instance, and I keep struggling with, I need to convert dates and I need to do some date-related function. This is something that I always have to look at documentation or Stack Overflow. I can just ask, Copilot to write that method. And of course, that this is a demo. It will not suggest, oh, it took a while. And here you go. It created the function for me for a basic thing. So I'm not looking at Stack Overflow as much as I did. It feels magical as a developer to have this tool under my belt. It like you could see, it serves as a code companion. And if I'm going to be honest, even kind of like a little bit of a coding slave for me as well. For instance, things that I would be too lazy to do myself, like an example of a good problem that I had. John Cricket, I don't know if you are familiar with John Cricket, but really, really great guy that always have some pretty nice suggestions in terms of software development. He advertised this bundle from O'Reilly for architects book, right? And I went there, I purchased this. If you don't know Handle Bundle, brilliant stuff. You get brilliant books by very cheap, and part of the profits goes to charity. Side hint. Anyway, like there is all those books and multiple formats, and basically I wanted to organize the software that I'm using to organize my books it's not very smart. In order to import multiple formats, you have to organize those formats into common subfolders, right? So this is the kind of thing that I would be too lazy and I would end up like doing by hand and organizing the folders. Instead of doing that, I just came to ChatGPT and asking to group those files together, and it gave me absolutely functional working code to organize my books. So I can have like a folder with many, many books with the same name and different formats. And I can come here and run the script that ChatGPT wrote for me with some input, and it will basically organize into common folders. And I know this is the kind of developer thing. Why do a 5 minutes job if you can spend 2 hours automating it? But this kind of thing actually teaches you something about coding. And more than that, you never know when you're going to be using it again. So I bought another bundle and like I reused the same profile, right? So it is basically a Swiss Army knife of like many, many, many things that I would like to do, including some pretty advanced things that you can, like I'm using I'm using to, teach myself some data science. So if anyone was ever like the Hello World for data science, for instance, is like exploring the Iris data set. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically like you have some lengths of petal and sepal, and you can apply AI to try to classify and cluster those flowers. And ChatGPT not only managed to basically do the analysis by itself and give me the code, right? It points me towards the right direction. So it is getting very, very, very impressive. I'm going to skip through a lot of things because I was too excited speaking about all of this. But what I can tell you is that I went from being totally annoyed and thinking that, okay, this is just a hype, to actually been very impressed with the capabilities of like the AI tools and incorporating it in basically all aspects of my life. That is a brave new world that we're living in. And the only slide that I actually added some of my own content here is the last one where you can find out how to contact me, and I'm going to open the room for some questions now.
That's brilliant, Anthony, because I still remember your I was yelling at it because it didn't work talk. So yeah, it's excellent to see kind of the flip side of that, really. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one. Is there anything that you still think it doesn't quite do as well, or there's anything you would still do the old-fashioned way instead of leveraging ChatGPT?
A lot of it comes down to my approach has changed, that when I start getting frustrated, I try to research either another tool or going back to myself. So is there things that it can do? Yeah, many. I would say most of it will get me into green shanoid territory very fast. But then again, it's kind of like software development. If you break into smaller chunks and use the proper tools, like then it becomes more and more useful. So it's more a question of scope than actually anything, you know. So instead of create those presentations for me and export it, okay, proofread my outline, generate the images, break it down into smaller tasks. So it's impressive though how like GenAI and developers have things in common, right? So, any other questions?
It looks like Alex might have a comment
ahead.
or a question.
Yeah, I was trying to fiddle around with technology whilst coming up with a question. So, Anthony, is there any tips that you could come up with for testing the what ChatGPT does? I mean, do you feel like you've? I get the impression you've done it all manually. Is that correct?
By let's define testing. You mean like exploring what it has to do, or to like testing code with it?
I'm thinking more of something like an automated test where you are confirming that it's doing something that you want it to do. Is that appropriate here?
Yeah, that is fine. So I'm taking, you're right, an exploratory manual approach to it. Of course, that a lot of it comes through RFTM kind of thing. You know, there is always better ways and tools to invocate. For instance, you see me using Copilot ChatGPT to explain things to me, but it has you know, workspace related commands, and it has proper shortcuts. So if I come back here to Fibonacci, if I take the time to learn the proper commands, I could have like a tests generate test for me. And I know that you're asking in a more broader sense, but just learning that this option exists like save me a lot of going back and forth, you know.
Is this more of ChatGPT in the Copilot mode?
So this is Copilot, which uses a Microsoft alterated version of ChatGPT-4. So it's variations on top of the same LLM.
Cool. Thanks very much. I think I'll ask my second question by email. So thanks very much.
Go for it. Claudius,
Excellent.
welcome. Nice to see you here. Do you have a question?
Can you hear me? Yes. So I wanted to. Oh, by the way, excellent. I love the narrative. Well done on the presentation. And yes, I wanted to ask: have you tried other large language models as well, aside from ChatGPT yet?
So like I said, like Copilot and Bing Chat, which I think has been renamed to Copilot as well, not confusing at all, are two variations of ChatGPT that I tested. I also tried for AWS specific stuff. I tried GenAI Code Whisper from their tools, which is really nice for, again, AWS stuff. I tested a little bit of like coding against like custom LLMs like llamas and things like that, and I was very impressed. So overall, I still, from the ones that I could experiment with, I would say that ChatGPT is the one that I have more integrated in my life and its variants, but I would certainly recommend people to explore further.
I've got a question.
Go for it.
I believe that ChatGPT has already demonstrated that it can pass the American bar examination for access to the legal profession. How long before we don't need any lawyers anymore?
Oh, well, this is, well, depending on your outlook in life, this is a good and bad question at the same time, right? But we can ask the same thing, like models are getting better at coding, and Gemini, I don't know if you saw the presentation of Google Gemini, and it's basically killing lead code questions and things like that. So yeah, it's a brave new world. At the moment, I don't think that we are anywhere near replacing lawyers or software developers, but we're certainly entering a world that lawyers and software developers and anybody else will have to like leverage those tools to do their jobs properly.
Excellent, thank you. And like I say, I'm just so pleased because obviously last time I saw your talk about ChatGPT, you were very unimpressed with its potential and its capabilities. So yeah, it's interesting to see the other side of that, definitely. Thank you so much, Anthony. So last but not least for you all, we have the lovely Carly, who I can see is also in some kind of festive get-up, I think, for which I'm very grateful because I didn't manage the jumper, sorry.
Yeah, festive-ish, I would say.
Festive-ish, yeah, that's fine. So over to you, Carly.
Cool, thank you, everybody. So I guess this kind of leads on in terms of both Christmassy factor and also the AI kind of theme. So I'm going to show you today how to build a Christmas song generator. So we're going to generate our own Christmas song. We're going to use LangChain to interact with OpenAI. So we'll be using GPT 3.5, if memory serves, because I'm on the free version. I've not upgraded like Anthony has. And I'm going to show you how to ground it using documents from a store. In this case, it's going to be Elasticsearch. So, okay, right. First, let's talk through the architecture of this little app. It's super simple and straightforward. I have a vanilla front end using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so we can avoid the framework wars that normally happens with JavaScript front end frameworks. And all it does is take a series of inputs, including a Christmas song title and a few other things, plonks it back to an Express server that I've got running locally, which will pull the documents back, the song lyrics from Elasticsearch, which I'll show you how to do with the JavaScript client in a moment. And then we're going to use a library called LangChain for basically the LLM communication. So LangChain is going to generate the prompt set for us, it's going to send off, and it's going to generate the response. And all the code I have covering today is available at the QR code if anyone wants to go and have a dig in later, if they're playing a bit of LangChain and they want to get an idea of how things work. So first, I talked about this idea of grounding. I could have quite happily just said to LangChain, just go off with any old prompt, and it probably would have been able to find the Christmas song somewhere and generate something in the style. But quite often you might have cases with a large language model where you want to ground it and limit it to a data set that you have. So I'm going to show you how you can do that with Elastic. But first I needed my data inside Elasticsearch. So for anyone who's not familiar, Elasticsearch is a distributed search engine technology that allows you to ingest your own documents and then search across them, either using basic text analysis searches or vector technology as well. But what I did was I pulled them in using the crawler. So all I did was basically on those pages I just showed you from that christmassongs.net site is pulled out the lyrics, which is the main section. So that's this particular CSS path. And then I pulled out song title, which is the heading of class lyrics. I couldn't set it as title because title is a reserved attribute because obviously you have the title of a page, but song title will just do fine. And then the next thing I had to do was actually transform it because I wanted to not just do keyword search, but vector as well. So I created something called an ingest pipeline, which basically allows me to transform the documents that I've pulled in from the crawler to make them what I want them to be. So I dropped anything that didn't have a title and lyrics because when I looked through the data set, I was finding that actually it pulled in some extra stuff that I didn't want it to, like kind of basic kind of overview pages and stuff, which is not very useful when you're trying to ground something with song lyrics. I then pulled the lyrics off the title just because you want to pass the actual name of the song in when we do that later. And then I generated vectors off of the lyrics in the song title using a model that I pulled off of Hugging Face, which is actually a repository for models and data sets that you can go off and pull down for free and play with. So it got rid of lyrics off of the song title, as you can see, and then it pulled in the lyrics and it's got these really, really long vectors for my lyrics as well. So I now know that I can pass those into LangChain and it will be able to handle it. So this is the generator. This is where we can have some audience participation. So there's a few elements that we can add in to customize our song. So firstly, we would like to pick a subject of a particular person or fictional character that we want our song to be about. So does anyone want to shout one out?
Tiny
Reach.
Tim.
Sorry?
Tiny Tim.
Tiny Tim. Okay, go for it. Just an adjective that describes Christmas. So we could have merry, snowy. Any other suggestions?
Alex says wet.
Okay, we're gonna have a wet Christmas for Tiny. This is getting really miserable, this one. Okay. Right, so what's Tiny Tim's favourite holiday food then?
Goose,
Oh.
roast goose.
Goose.
Of course, yes, has to be goose.
Nice. What gift do we want to give Tiny Tim for Christmas?
High heel shoes.
Yeah, do it.
High-heeled shoes.
Claudius says Scrooge's fortune. I'm sorry, I've taken us down a Christmas Carol route here unintentionally.
This is absolutely
I
fine.
like high heel shoes. Let's do it. Why not?
Cool. Right, now I might have to slightly put people down on this one, but is there a particular Christmas song we want to try and model this on? No?
Fairy
No.
Tale of New York is the
I've
suggestion.
not got that one in the
chat.
data set.
Ah, shame. It's a great suggestion, Claudius. I like it.
I do. Well, let's see what it does, because it doesn't have it. So it's going to have to find something similar. So let's see what it does. Right? See if it actually grounded or if it just ignores me and says, I know better, I'm ChatGPT. Right. So while that's going off to figure it out, let me quickly walk you through the code that's actually powering this thing. So as I said, vanilla front end in HTML, the thing that you really care about is the fact that we've got this get song on click event, right? So what this method does is calls get song. So we take all the input values from that form that we had by their ID, pull out the value within it. And then what we do is we encode it, because you can see here, we're going to make a call back to the server and we're passing all these in as URL parameters. So we need to make sure that they're encoded. So we're removing spacing and replacing it with the equivalent characters. So we're doing that. Then I'm doing a simple fetch. So I get request off to this generate call on my server, adding in all of these particular elements. So we've not got the lyrics yet, as you can see. I'm just going to move this out of the way so that I can see. Perfect. So then on the server, the generate call is decoding them on the other side, including the title. It then uses the title to go and get the results from Elasticsearch. So what I do is instantiate a connection to a cluster I have. And then I am doing this mega blended query. So I have A simple multi-match, so it's just going to look for the title and song title and lyrics, and this is traditional text. But I'm also blending it with vector search. So this is, rather than looking for the exact text, it's basically going to do a semantic comparison and use vector similarity to find the closest document. So it's going to return one document. It's evaluating 100 candidates, my shards. I've not got that many documents, so it's going to look at all of the documents basically. And then I use the same model to convert my query. So I've said a Christmas song with title similar to Fairy Tale of New York. So Fairy Tale of New York is not in the data set, so hopefully it'll give us something similar. And then I blend them together because obviously we have 3 different sets of results. So we use a technique called reciprocal rank fusion, which basically aggregates all the scores together for a document across all of our different queries. So if you have, for example, a document that comes back in this match, but then also comes back for the song title, that obviously will have a combined score of the 2 scores from those, if that makes sense. And then the next thing that we do is we need to actually do the LangChain bit, so the actual integration with our large language model. So once you've installed LangChain, there's 2 things you really need for connectivity to ChatGPT. You need the chat model itself, so it's using OpenAI. You'll need a key for your account. So if you create a basic OpenAI account, as I did, and then generate an API key, you'll also get some free credit to start with that you can play with. Then I basically established the connection with the key. I've also set the temperature. So the temperature by default, temperature is an indication of randomness in the results that are coming back from the large language model. I've set the temperature to 0.9, which is rather high because it's normally between 0 and 1 as an indication. And I think the default, if memory serves, is like 0.2. So obviously, if you were doing this in a work capacity, you probably wouldn't have as high a temperature as I do, but randomness is good. And then what I have is I'm using what's called a prompt template to generate the prompts. And I've got a selection of prompts that I'm passing into the model. So I've got a system-based one, which is where I'm telling it that it needs to use the style of the provided song. And then I've told it that it needs to write a Christmas song with our adjective, we describe it, about the person we've added in, so Tiny Tim, include at least a reference to eating this particular food and getting a gift, and write it in the style of the lyrics that we're passing back from Elasticsearch, which is coming in. So we format the messages so that it adds in what we've passed in to the prompt, and then predict messages is what's going to give us our final result back from ChatGPT, passing in the prompts that we want to send to it. And then message.content is going to be our final result, which if I go back and cross my fingers and toes, is this. So as you can see, it's clearly brought back We Wish You a Merry Christmas rather than Fairy Tale of New York. So that's what it's considering to be semantically close, which is quite interesting. We have Tiny Tim in here. What else did we say we were looking at? The Wet Christmas. Yeah, we have got a Wet Christmas in here filled with snow and cheer.
Roast goose.
Roast goose. Let's find the goose.
Yep.
Oh.
I'm pointing at it. You can't see that I'm pointing at it. I'm
No,
sorry.
I can. So roast goose and chestnut. So it's elaborated a bit, but that's still pretty cool. Does it have the shoes? There we go.
Yeah.
Brought high-heeled shoes for little Tim to wear. It's got a reference to Santa Claus. And yes, it's saying that wet Christmas bring happiness to all, and may the spirit the season forever stand tall. So there you go. We have generated probably the wackiest Christmas song I have ever seen. I am totally going to add in Fairy Tale of New York and see what it does. So I'm happy to share that if anyone wants to see where we get. But that is it. We have walked through how to use LangChain to connect to a large language model and generate results. We've also seen how to ground it against a particular data store. Happy holidays. Have a look at the codes, try things out. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take those too.
Thanks, Carly. That was an amazing presentation, as always. I think that my question would be, you work for Elastic, so you tell me how much you can say, but when I look at like traditional solutions in the search space that do, I don't know, corrections, they do optimizations, they do suggestions. And I look at Gen AI, I see a lot of overlap. You know, are we going to like do like proper searching with like the more traditional one, or are we going to use a Gen AI model and get like a summary on the other side? So how do you see the evolution here? You see those two things converging and more of like Gen AI being a feature of search, or do you see them like breaking more apart and Elasticsearch being a backend for a lot of this?
So that's a good question. So what I'm seeing at the moment is that there's a kind of a blend of things. I've seen use cases. So a good example is like I saw Trustpilot, they were using OpenSearch rather than Elasticsearch, but the premise still stands. What they were doing is they were actually blending like traditional text analysis with a semantic score, because they would have a case like, think about if you've ever used Trustpilot, they have the case where you might add in a company name, which semantic search is not really intended for or really that good for. But then you might ask for the best company in my area that can provide this particular service, a semantic query. So what they were trying to do was find ways of blending those result sets together. And I still see a lot of people trying to do things like that. But then I see people who are doing the generated, so I saw one from Elsevier recently, was a good example, generated results. And semantic is kind of their primary characteristic. So I think I think there's still a place for text analysis and the traditional stuff, but I think a lot of people are jumping on the generative bandwagon, making use of large language models on the top. And that's the way we're going to go forward, because it's changing how we interact with the search system. Because as you showed in your talk, you are in the situation where you're kind of having more of a conversation with it, and it's multi-level inputs. And I think that's where we're going to go. The interesting things that you're going to find with that, though, is regarding like openness of the data set. So if you have a closed data set, but you're using an LLM, you need to pick carefully based on the license constraints. Like, do I have to provide my data back for training? Do I not? Can I properly ground it? Obviously, with this, I actually can't remember with ChatGPT. I think there is conditions around surrendering the data back. So that's why I've used a public site. So you need to consider those kind of things around kind of the usage when you start building these things as well. So I think it's going to go in more of the generative way, because it's changing how people search for stuff. But then there's an accessibility question as well. I think about like kind of particular demographics who might not be able to use the same interfaces in the same kind of communicative way. Is that going to change? Or are we going to need to do more of a hybrid option? So yeah, we're moving forward. I think there's still a need for text analysis, basic keyword search somewhere, but it's more going in the LLM direction, I would say.
Thank you, Carly. Any other questions for Carly?
I know there was a question in the chat saying, could you please share the link to your demo?
Actually hosted for people to play it.
Well, I was actually looking at the code. I wanted the code.
I'll put the code in the chat. Yeah, no
Thanks very
problem.
much.
So I'll dig out that link for you now.
Cheers.
I just want to take, we are 3 minutes to the end, but before we go away and call it like happy holidays, I would just like to give a special thanks to Abby. You'll probably see her picture on basically all RecWorks events, like including this one, there was his picture. So she has been representing the community on like all sorts of talks, hosting, organizing, doing all of the like background work so that we can come here and give our presentations. For those of you that don't know, unfortunately, fortunately for her, she has her dream job, but she'll not she'll not be part of like RecWorks at the moment, by my understanding, right, Abby?
No,
And
not anymore, unfortunately.
and we got, so I can tell you myself how used I got with having you and Jade in the room. It was like a calming, soothing experience that the universe is fine, everything will be all right. So we'll be missing you tremendously, and I hope that you come back and give a talk. You give your first one, so let's see if you come back as an aspiring speaker one of those days.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great fun. Thank you, Anthony. That's really kind of you. So is that us done? I think it is. So for 2023, my goodness me, we are done. Thank you so much, Rajani and Anthony and Carly, for speaking today. It's been really great to hear what you've had to share. It's been very, very interesting, definitely. And thank you so much for letting me host, because I just kind of come in and wing it every time. So it's been awesome. It has been great fun. So for anybody who's watching this online, I hope you found the talks enjoyable as well. And if you want to connect with the aspiring speakers or aspiring women speakers groups, find us on LinkedIn, find us on Slack. We've got websites as well, so you can find us a number of ways. And I hope you all have a really Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And the community looks forward to seeing you in 2024. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.